What's a bedtime story your parents told you and now you realize it was messed up? So growing up, my parents, ESP my mom, had this one story they'd tell me like at least once a week called The Girl Who Found Her Voice. I used to love it as a kid and would literally beg for it. It was our special story that was just for me. They didn't even tell it to my younger brothers. TBH, I hadn't thought about it for years until I was back home last month. I found this old journal of mine from when I was like 8 where I'd tried to write down the story myself. My handwriting was so bad, LOL. Reading it as an adult, holy shit, I literally had to sit down on those gross steps. For those curious, the story went something like this. There was this little girl named Mary who lived in a beautiful village by the mountains. Mary was super special. She could sing more beautifully than anyone in the whole village, and flowers would bloom when she sang. But there was this one weird part of the story. Mary was only allowed to sing when she was completely alone, or with her parents. If anyone else heard her sing, something terrible would happen. One day, Mary's friend Barry, who was described as curious but sometimes naughty, convinced her to sing for him. He kept saying things like, just a little song and nobody will know and don't you trust me? My mom would always use different voices for the characters, and Barry's voice was always kind of weird and persuasive. Mary finally gave in and sang for Barry, and at first everything seemed fine. But that night, the moon turned blood red, and a giant shadow creature came down from the mountains. The shadow creature could smell that Mary had shared her special gift with someone who wasn't supposed to hear it. The creature took away Mary's voice completely as punishment. She couldn't speak or sing at all anymore. And the worst part was that Barry pretended nothing had happened. He wouldn't admit that he'd done anything wrong or help her. Mary was sad for a long time and all the flowers in the village died. Her parents tried everything to help her get her voice back, but nothing worked. Years passed in the story. Then one day, Mary met this other guy named Jacob who was described as gentle and patient. Jacob didn't try to make Mary talk or sing. He just sat with her and told her stories and jokes. Sometimes they would just sit in silence by the river. After a long time, Mary started making small sounds again. First just humming, then whispered words. Jacob never pushed her or made her feel bad about it. Eventually, she started singing again, but only when she felt safe, and only around people she completely trusted. The story always ended with, and Mary learned that her voice was precious, and that she should only share it with those who deserve to hear it. Not everyone deserves to hear your special song. As a kid, I thought it was just a pretty fairy tale about being careful who you trust. My parents would emphasize the moral about keeping some things private and not letting people pressure me into doing things I didn't want to do. But reading it now, I'm freaking TF out because it's so obviously about sexual abuse and grooming. Like the whole story is basically a warning about predatory behavior and trauma. The part about Barry pressuring her, the punishment for giving in, the long recovery process, finding someone who respects boundaries, it's all there. What messes me up even more is how specific some parts were. Like, there was this detail I remembered while reading my journal. Whenever my mom told the story, she would describe Barry as having a small birthmark near his eye shaped like a crescent moon, and Jacob was always described as having hands that were strong but never grabbed. I started thinking about my extended family and realized my mom has this cousin named Kieran who used to visit when I was really young. I barely remember him, but I found an old family photo and he has a freaking crescent-shaped mark by his eye. I don't think he's been to any family gatherings since I was maybe 5 or 6. I've been spiraling all week trying to figure out if something happened to me that I don't remember, or if something happened to my mom when she was young, or if I'm just being paranoid and reading way too much into a simple bedtime story. Last night, I finally got the courage to ask my mom about the story over the phone. I was super casual like, hey, remember that Mary story you used to tell me? Where did that come from anyway? And there was this long silence on the phone. Then she just said, why are you asking about that now? In this voice I've never heard before. I backtracked and said I just found my old journal and thought it was a cute memory. She said, some stories are just stories, honey, and changed the subject immediately. Update. I talked to my mom. The story wasn't about me, it was about her. Kieran is her older cousin who abused her when she was 7. She created the story as a way to protect me without traumatizing me with the actual details. Jacob represents my dad who helped her heal. She never thought I'd piece it together and didn't want me to carry her trauma.